Oof, 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 oof. Hello, everyone. Good. Oh, this is funny. So I was shuffling this deck. So today's going to be. I I forgot to put it in the title. Release Part 4. Release Part 4. Because I said that I was going to do this thing weekly. I was already like, I'm wearing my Red Wing Blackbird shirt today. um, because I had already said I was gonna do it, and then this week I was like, "Oh, I will do it yesterday." And then yesterday I was like, "Not today." And then today I was like, Maybe never again." And I was like, "No." I said I would do it, so I'm doing it. And as soon like I don't remember the water being this cold when I put my feet in. It like shocked me. I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" But today there's an energy of convergence. I don't know what is converging, but sometimes I'll get these bands of light that just pass by my vision. And after I put my feet in the water today, usually they go from one direction or another. But today they were both coming into the middle of my vision and then just like disappearing, right? I was like, okay, so something is coming together. And so I was just shuffling the cards to I was gonna get like a do like this for the thumbnail. I was just gonna pick two cards at random. Hey Eve, how you doing today? But this card like dropped out face up, and it's the Queen of Swords Amazon. And I was like, ooh, and I'm trying to be nice today. I'm trying to incorporate all of the elements into this release. So not neglecting water or earth, you know, for fire and air. And I was like, this is kind of thick. So stuck behind the Queen of Swords Amazon was the Tooth Fairy star. And then the Amazon was like, well, nobody said that it had to be my teeth. So it's like the Amazon is putting the teeth of whoever she gets teeth from under her pillow and she's making money. Because if it were her own teeth, she has a finite number of teeth, right? I guess. I was like, okay, that's interesting. I don't think it's that. It was just funny. It's a joke. And then the bottom of the deck is the Hierophant Witch Doctor. Voodoo Warlock, sorry. And this Hierophant has a similar color scheme to the Tooth Fairy. And the High Priestess is under this. So we have. And Temperance? Come through, Majors. Okay. With the Ace of Wands Salamander. I hope it is too, but with less flickering lights. I had to like unplug the light or like untwist it and then twist it back in, and I had to resync it. So hopefully today it doesn't give me any issues. I'm eating the shrimp curry today though, so I'm excited about that. So we have the Hierophant, the High Priestess, and Temperance. And again, Temperance, they kind of, even in the High Priestess, we see these purples. So this is definitely something happening in the background. I feel like there is a balancing, and there's a clock on the wall of the High Priestess. So the High Priestess is coming out. It was. I was like, what is happening? And then it just kept flashing blue. I'm like, okay, all right, I'm just gonna turn this off. The High Priestess is coming out with divine timing today because of the clock. And Temperance is coming out with an energy of alignment because of the full moon and all the stars, I guess. And then we see the full moon in this Hierophant too. But it feels like there's going to be a balancing between these two energies, the High Priestess and the Hierophant, in a way where it's like the energies play together in a different way. 2 and 5. And then there's the 17 and 14. I don't know if this moon is waxing or waning in the star card. It kind of doesn't matter because either way, it's not yet full. But that's the only moon that we see that isn't full. It's the one in the star. And in the Queen of Swords, we have the sun. So I don't know. That's for later. First, we're gonna look at the Daily Farmer's Almanac. So it's time to timestamp. Timestamp. Overview intro. I guess I'll say 0000. Daily Farmer. This is like 5:45 from what I can remember. I keep meaning to update my description box to include the link to the podcast, but it's fine. I'm gonna give these a few shuffles first, though. I had a dream last night about something that I don't remember. So why did I say I had a dream last night? I feel like it was weird though. Not like too weird. Also, after I talked about the dream with the fairies and how I had to make myself light, it was actually through the space of like being with my friend and his longtime girlfriend that I realized how much things had changed and shifted, and also that I got opportunities to be light instead of being upset and angry and frustrated and allowing that to sort of fester. I know there's like a video a while ago when I was like, hey, I'm doing this podcast with my best friend. Check it out. The link is down below. Um, and then I meant to like put it in here, but that didn't happen. So I'll put the link in the description box after. I mean, if you go to like Tranquil Leaves podcast, this is live, so I can just like type it in. Let's see if I can get this. Let me see if I can get this real quick. Okay. And so what? Here we go. I'm like, excuse me. I mean, sure, whatever. That's fine. Really? Oh, snap. What? I don't even know what podpay.fm is, honestly. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, this is on Google Podcasts. That makes sense. It's hosted on some, I don't remember what the service is, but they put it on a few things. So you can find it on Google Podcasts, Spotify. Um yeah, those are podcasts. Okay. I'm trying to find this Instagram though. Because the Instagram has the link to the whole thing. Girl, bear with me. I'll just go here. And so it was in the space of being with my friend that I was given the opportunity to make myself light and to release and to experience exuberation and jubilee. Okay, calm down. um, and that was the first time I was with my friend. And then a few weeks later, I went back down there. And that was the time when I was on a walk one day when my friend had his interview. And that's when I heard Allow the World to be Rewritten. Yes, Tranquil Leaves. Um, let's see. Yes. Anchor.fm/Tranquil Leaves. I think that's it. Anchor.fm/Tranquil Leaves. And it's just us talking about stuff. Okay. Boom. There we go. And then it has like the Spotify and other stuff. And yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. So there it is. It'll be in the description box after this and on the future videos as well. I should put it on my personal Instagram. All right. So today we're talking about salad. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have this shrimp curry later. Thanks. It's a podcast. It's honestly like I think the third episode is still one of my favorites. Either the second or both the second and the third one, because then we get like vulnerable, and then the last one was pretty cool too, because we were like, what are we doing today? I'm like, I don't know, and she's like, I don't know either. And so we pulled, and she's like, oh well, we can pull around like the planets that are retrograding this month. I was like, okay, cool, yeah, that works, and it was kind of beautiful. So, the Waldorf salad first appeared in 1893 at a charity ball at New York City's newly opened Waldorf Astoria Hotel. The Maître d'Hôtel, I don't know how to speak French, Maître de Hotel, Oscar Sturkey, is credited with creating the original recipe, which used apples, celery, and mayonnaise. I don't know much about salad. I don't know much about French, and I don't know much about the Waldorf Astoria Hotel. Waldorf. But let's see. Oh, let's get three cards. One for the apples, of course. Another for the celery, and another for the mayonnaise. Bottom of the deck is the lovers. So it's a blend between the Queen of Wands, the Four of Swords, and the Three of Wands energies. The Waldorf Astoria is like, that's a fancy one, right? That's a fancy hotel. I don't know why that matters. But there is this energy because it's a combination of all three of these in one. And it's a manifestive energy. It's a manifesting energy that seeks calmly without being detached, if that makes sense. And the lovers is here, which means, I mean, we get it, right? Who is this? That's the Five of Wands at the top of the deck, peeking out. And I feel like it's an energy, right? A lot of times when we talk about like manifesting something, and I think I've mentioned this before. I don't remember when the energy was prevalent or when it first came across, but it's like when we're manifesting something, they say like not to be attached to the outcome. They say to release it, but it's almost like potentially, because what do I know? It's almost like we can take manifestation a step further by not detaching, but also not forcing and not, yeah, it's not detaching, but also not forcing. And so it keeps us in this really attractive, let's see if I can, nope, let's just do this. It keeps us in this really attractive Queen of Wands energy where we don't have to go after it. We let it come to us, but also we're this sort of beacon that attracts it. Because it's almost like, well, if we detach too much, then it weakens the magnetic pull, right? It's like if you have two magnets and you're like, you don't have to force the magnets together if they are of compatible polarity, then they'll just boop, together, right? By themselves. You don't have to do anything. But if there's too much distance, then the force of that attraction is weakened. But if there's too much forcing, then it's like you can accidentally sort of flip the polarity on it to the point where it repels. And so it feels like there's this sweet spot. And I don't know if this is manifesting in general or manifesting something specific. And I'm noticing the sunflowers today. She's got the hawthorn branch flowering, and she's got the sunflowers in full bloom. Even though there's like fire behind it. She's almost looking like Felicia Day to me today. Almost. Maybe it's because I love Felicia Day. I feel like I might have said that before. And who is this? See, because it's like if we're purely in the energy of detachment with this Four of Swords and we're like trying to convince ourselves that we don't want it or whatever, it's like if you look at her hair and if you look at her expression, it's like a pained expression. It's like trying to force ourselves to not want it or trying to force ourselves. It takes 90 days for a sunflower to bloom. I didn't know that. Like a 90-day fiance. I need to. I mean, I've messaged her. I wonder what my friend is up to. It's fine. Um, it's like it's almost painting her, and it's almost like it might create more resistance to try to force ourselves to not want something, to get something, because if we want it too much, then it's not going to happen. And so it becomes this like internal, like, well, do you want it or not type of thing. Where it's like, yeah, I want it, but like, I don't want it. I want it, but like, I'm trying not to want it. And if you look at her hair and her expression, it's like it takes her sort of out of this. And that's why I love that the Three of Wands is here, because the Three of Wands is also a card of waiting. It's a card of expectation, right? But it isn't necessarily super specific like it can be. And we already see like two ships in the water, right? Two boats. There's the one in the back and the one closer to the foreground, right? And so it's this undetached, unspecified sort of energy that's open. It's open to receive. And I feel like after you come to a position of not forcing things or not needing things to be a specific way, after you sort of learn to, I don't want to say relax your expectations, but relax your limitations on how your manifestations are fulfilled. I don't know why. What was I just looking at? There's this one puzzle from The Witness where there were four fairly easy puzzles on the floor. And then there was another puzzle, and they were Tetris puzzles, but it would cancel one of them. So there were two Tetris puzzles and a canceller. And with the canceller, you have to cancel something. So depending on which Tetris piece you canceled, then when you move back, there's this reflective, it's a symmetric puzzle. And the solution is like this, like you go in, up, out, and then you come back in. But within the symmetric puzzle, you have to fit the configurations that you left active in the four Tetris puzzles on the floor. And there's no way to, since it's a symmetric puzzle, and maybe that's the energy of the convergence. I don't know. Oh, convergence. Here's the love errors. Um, maybe with the symmetric puzzle, since on the different sides they're different, you can't like try to individually solve for one and then individually solve for another and get a solution. It has to meet in the middle. And when it meets in the middle, it has to fit within it the configuration from all four of those pieces, all four of those puzzles. Again, I don't know why that shape just popped into my mind. I feel like I was looking at something, but I don't see what it what it would have been. Also, for some reason, this is reminding me of a violin or a cello, a stringed instrument, because it's like she's holding it like this, and then this would be the bow that you do, right? Probably like a cello more than a violin, because violins you don't typically play. You typically play a violin on the neck, right? Yeah, because look, he's wearing the red headband around his head, and it matches her red hair. And so it's this energy. It's kind of sort of stop and go. But like I was saying, I feel like after you learn to not get attached to the outcome, and after you learn that the divine can bring you what you desire in any number of ways, then you may not have to be so detached from the outcome. Or it's not being, it's like, I don't know how to describe it, but I feel like you can probably piece together what I'm trying to say. Like it's okay to desire things. It's okay to want things, but to be consumed by that desire, that's when things can get a little, and to need for something to be fulfilled in a specific way when that may not necessarily be the way that it gets fulfilled can create some resistance and blockage as well. Oh, I don't remember that at all. Usually I have a decent memory. I don't remember that at all. What? Now I'm curious. Okay. So that was this part. Now let's get into the release part. And again, I'm going to try to incorporate more elements of water today because, water is cool. We need water to live on this planet. Bottom of the deck, Princess of Pentacles. Top of the deck, Five of Cups. Okay. There's an energy here of like, again, it's like, it might have been Virgo or Aries. My brain is like, well, my brain was already like, oh, before I started. It's just that, oh, kind of day to day. It might have been for Virgo or Aries. Yeah, I can't remember anything. What's my name? I'm just playing. There's an energy here with the Five of Cups and the Page of Pentacles, Princess of Pentacles. It's like, because in this Five of Cups, she's looking at the two cups. It's like trying not to want the things that we want, or feeling like it's not okay to want the things that we want. And it's like, well, if you don't want anything, then where's the joy in like spirit sort of like guiding you to it or giving it to you? I don't know. So let's see what the weekly release is all about this week. You forgot what's in the readings. Yeah. Usually, well, not usually. Sometimes I'm able to remember or recall, especially if it's like if I say something and then it triggers like, oh, I feel like I've like talked about this before, or I feel like I've gotten this before. That's when it's like, oh yeah, it was this reading or that reading. Sometimes it isn't, but man, I wish I would have remembered. Ooh, the lovers and the Six of Cups. Jenny Green Teeth and Succubus. Now this is a, yeah, exactly. And so it may be time to, again, I don't know which is more effective, but it could potentially like increase our manifestation game when we're not so detached from it that it's like energetically we try to energetically almost carry a signature of not wanting it. And it's very like, oh, well, if you want somebody to care about you, then ignore them. Then they'll be obsessed with you. And it's like, okay, well, that's weird. I mean, maybe for some people it works. Maybe some people like to be ignored. They like to chase people. I'm not. I'm like, why I gotta hide how like? If I gotta do all that, it's too much for me. I'd rather go somewhere else where it's appreciated and reciprocated. I'm not gonna pretend like I don't want the things that I want. That's weird. Why would I do that? Again, different strokes for different folks. No judgment. High Priestess and Queen of Wands Lilith at the bottom of the deck with the Two of Cups and the Queen of Pentacles Dryad. Oh, Queen of Wands. We literally just had her. But it's Lilith now. See, there's something about I don't know. I don't know if I've ever noticed the woman on the back of the unicorn in this card. I've always just focused on the unicorn. Oh, look, she's got the fiery red hair. Like that Queen of Wands, and she's riding a unicorn. She's like, she got the whole, I mean, if you can manifest a unicorn, I'd say that's better than like, oh, like, give me $5 or $5 million. It's the frequency of money. It's the same. It's more or less. You're not much of a chaser. Usually don't work out well for you. I mean, I feel like I am usually a chaser, honestly. Also, my Venus is in Aries, so I guess I'm not surprised that I'm a chaser. Um, but there does come a point when it's like, okay, well, I'm not gonna chase something forever. And if there's an interest there, then it's like, okay, if the interest is there, I'm gonna express the interest because it's there. If it's not reciprocated, it's like, okay, it's like a gradual thing for me. It's like I back up, and then I back up some more, and then I back up some more, and I'm like, okay, we're cool. Or it's just like, boom, okay, we're cool. That's what it is. But I can be a chaser, honestly, but not like a chaser though. Again, because that's like, um, so she's manifesting a universe. Oh, see, this is the story. This is the Dark Queen Lilith that we've always known. This is High Priestess, where this certain time is coming. This Lady of Knowing with her crystal clear crystal ball, all of her divination tools. She's the fortune teller in this deck. Okay. But then it's like we go from this image of Lilith to this image of Lilith. The one still in the garden. The frequency, the energy of Lilith is still in the garden. It's Adam who got kicked out for whatever reason. Adam got kicked out, right? I don't know. And then he was like, "Oh, it was the snake. It was Eve. It was Lilith. It was somebody else. It wasn't me." And God's like, "Okay, all right. Well, here's a lesson. Maybe, maybe not. Take it as it resonates. I don't know. What do I know, right?" And it reminds me of the energy that Sagittarius got the last time. It would have been Friday. I think it was Saturday when I ran through Pisces through Virgo. Because Sagittarius came out with the liberation card, and it was a woman who was like breaking free, and there was like a portal of light, and it's like, oh, we've been looking for Lilith in the wrong place. We've been looking for some of these energies in the wrong place. Like this is the tale we were told of Lilith, so this is where we went looking for her. But in reality, she's been over here, and that's why these fortune tellers, card people, readers, spiritualists. That's why her energy keeps popping up now. And it's like something about the story isn't right. Something about the story isn't right. Tap into your intuition, use your connection to divine what the energy of Lilith actually is. Outside of the rendition of Lilith that Hierophant's been telling people. And again, it's like we're going to discover it's like she's still in the garden. Or I don't know, she's this light thing and not this thing. I can't believe I've never noticed that lady on the horse before. So was that Lilith then? Waiting on us to get it right? In pain because it's one of those divine feminine frequencies that would love to help and assist and to nurture and to be here, but because of, and again, it's like for certain energies to really move, there has to be some kind of anchor. There has to be something that gives them a presence on this plane because the divine could, but it doesn't necessarily just like interfere. It doesn't necessarily steer the course itself. It can speak to those who can position themselves to do it. It can cooperate with those who are open and willing. And, there are a lot of open and willing people, and some people go through with it, some people don't. It's fine. We all have our own lives, and we all have, it's like we have the freedom to live our lives how we want. And there's no judgment in that. But it's those people who do as much as they can to shift things or to divert things, right? The Knight of Pentacles, Warrior. Bottom of the deck is the Six of Wands, Golem, and the King of Swords, Viking, with the Hierophant at the bottom of the deck. Warrior and the Golem. See, this is a Knight of Pentacles energy. And usually the Knight of Pentacles, it's like the only knight that crosses the finish line. It's the one that may be a little slow, like the tortoise, but he wins the race because the hare falls asleep or the hare gets bored and like leaves. You just found an old angel book you had over 20 years ago, and it mentioned that Lilith had several names, and Kali was one of them. Oh, snap! That's interesting, because when I told Russ about my dream, and he was getting a lot of Lilith at the time, and he was like, Lilith and Kali is like, is there some kind of connection there? I was like, I don't know. But then when he said that, it was this energy. It's almost like the story is that, like, Lilith got upset and she ran off, and then she birthed this, she became the mother of all demons or whatever, and the demons are the ones that are like trying to get us further away from God and keep us out of Eden or whatever. But it's like Adam and, potentially, because again, I don't know, it's like Adam and Lilith were like there, created in the garden, or their energies were there in the garden, right? And so it's nothing that she would have to fight for. It's nothing that Adam has to fight for. No one has to fight for anything. We just sort of align to it, and it's ours. We've been convinced that we have to struggle and fight and do this and do that to get stuff. Okay, that's what this is. Because here's old Hierophant energy with the moon. Intentionally deceptive, intentionally illusionary, intentionally providing certain information and omitting other details to get us to sort of be these Knight of Pentacles. For us to think that we're getting somewhere with the Knight of Pentacles, being this warrior, but then we come into the Six of Wands energy, which is victory. But victory in this deck is the Golem. It has no soul of its own. It moves, and it may even be able to talk and look like a human, but it's animate. It's an inanimate that's been animated, that's carrying on the will of this shadowy figure right here. And it reminds me of the Five of Swords in the SKT, where he's wearing the head of the papal bull. It's like, well, this is what Hierophant told me to do. And then you see all the people that have been like battered and bruised, and like they all bandaged up in the back, like looking sad and stuff. And he's like standing there victorious, like, yeah. But after that, we have the King of Swords, Viking. Was he pulling the sword from a stone? Well, it looks like he's sticking it in the ground. Yeah, he's not. That could have been gossip from Jelly Folks Warner. Pink Unicorn, exactly. It's like, oh my gosh, did you see her unicorn? Like horses are majestic, but my horse doesn't have a horn. I want what she has. And then it's like, okay, or you can appreciate your horse to the point where it reveals to you that it's been a unicorn this whole time. You just had to stop looking at what everybody else had. It's very much that Four of Pentacles from the page of Four of Pentacles from the Pride Tarot yesterday, with that like currency exchange energy. And it's like you could have this much money in your own world, but when you compare yourself to somebody else, then it's like this much. And so, like, we don't like this feeling. And so, what we do is we either try to manipulate, create, or find something that goes from this much in our world to like that much. It's like, oh, but I have like so much more than they do. Either that or, it's we do both. We do both, honestly. We make ourselves feel less than, and then we try to make ourselves feel better than. And then it's this weird thing where, or we can just like have what we have in our world and be cool. Because, that's, that's, so I don't know, because this is a hollow victory. The Page of Pentacles is the only one that reaches the finish line. But after he crosses the finish line, it's like, well, it's revealed that this has been an empty suit of armor. Like your soul was nowhere in this. It's like a lot of this maybe you didn't even want. Maybe you had been convinced that you wanted. Maybe it was projected onto you to want, and you sort of accepted it. This is interesting. So there is that Five of Swords, like training. It's like you put somebody in Warrior Academy, Knight Academy, and they become really good at manifesting, making, creating, furthering someone else's agenda with that Six of Wands golem. They become really successful at it, but there's something in what they do that doesn't bring them fulfillment or joy or line up with their own soul's fulfillment or purpose. It aligns more to someone else's, the one outside the ring, right? And he controls the ring of fire. And look, there's the ring of fire outside. Yeah, stuck in that ring of fire. And it feels like this is not great Hierophant energy that is doing all of that manipulation of mass consciousness and belief and like, through all the ways that they do that. And it feels like that's going to be squaring off against this King of Swords energy. Feels like old Hierophant is creating this army that is conducting this sort of spiritual warfare on its behalf. And it's interesting because a lot of times, no, it's not a lot of times. It's just like, I really feel like if we are disconnected from the divine, or if we are reliant upon something or someone else for that connection upon the divine, it can be easier to bend us over time, slowly by slowly, to the point where we sort of oppose the very things that we truly believe in. And then there's this other side of Hierophant energy. It's like there's the dark side of Hierophant energy, not the shadow side, the dark side of Hierophant energy, which is the side of Hierophant energy that isn't currently the most prevalent, that's sort of trying to get us to see things in a clearer way. It feels like within the energy of Hierophant, there is a polarization, or there's always been a polarization. because we've sort of always, even within the same structural organizational building, we can have this message of love, and we can have this message of otherness and not right and damned. And it's like, well, like, which is it? Like, are we loved or are we damned and cursed? Like, do we love our neighbors or do we like kill and steal from our neighbors? Like, which is it? Because we're sort of doing it all under the same name. And it's just like, I don't know. But that's what this is. And it feels like a lot of times when we think about spiritual warfare, it can be like angels and demons and things like that. But honestly, it feels like it's within us, each individual in the collective. And it's in interpersonal dynamics and relationships. And the spiritual part of that is that, like, as a human, when we feel attacked or when we feel wronged or when something happens to us, it warps the heart and the mind, and a warped heart and mind can produce effects on the body. And so it's like it distorts us because of what we've experienced and because of what we've been through. It knocks us out of alignment because our experience is all we know. And the Hierophant has positioned itself. It was a lot more sort of prevalent or easy to see in times when like the churches were huge, huge, right? And people would like fight wars on behalf of churches and stuff. Now the influence is more subtle. But it's like, again, because Hierophant preaches and teaches what is right, what is wrong, what to believe. Like, this is what you can do, this is what you can't do. These people are wrong, those people are all right. It impacts us and shapes us in more ways than we can understand. And Hierophant goes beyond just religion, it's also the governments that we sort of live under and how the laws are coded, right? Where there could be some people who just believe that they can get away with something, or some people who believe that they're above the law, some people who the law applies to more than it applies to other people. And then that, in and of itself, creates some kind of distortion because it's the same laws, but it's like they either overly apply, or underly apply, depending on the person, the place, the appearance. There's no consistency there, but it's intentionally inconsistent. It maintains that polarity. It sets this ring of fire that we grow up in, that we're raised under, that we Knight of Pentacles try to build something under, but we're still within the ring. We become these golems. We hollow ourselves out. It's like, have you ever worked a job that you felt was like literally sucking out your soul or your life force, but it pays the bills, it's to make ends meet? It's like from the time that we're young, we get hollowed out. We distance ourselves from ourselves more and more and more because we're weird, because we're teased, because we're bullied, because it's not appreciated, because it doesn't make us popular, because he doesn't notice you or she doesn't notice you, or because no one invited you to the dance, or because you can't afford to have nice clothes like everybody else. And we internalize a lot of that when it's like we're convinced for so long that there's something wrong with this. And it makes us into these perfect puppets. It's like, oh, and then it's like it's literally advertisement. Oh, like you want the girls, like you want the car, like buy this gum, buy these breath mints, and then you'll have all of these girls talking to you. It's like, okay, I mean, sure. We have like the beauty industry, the fashion industry. And again, there are these things that it's like just because we desire them, just because we have them, just because we pursue them, doesn't automatically sort of put us in a position of being outside of ourselves. But it's for us to know, like whether we're in this ring of fire when we're sort of getting it. Like, what is the reason that we want this thing? What do we believe? Oh my gosh, both of these are North Node energies. What? I don't know why these are North Node energies. Hold on, wait. Can you see it? You see the North Node? See, that's shadowy Hierophant trying to get you out of your North Node. Axe body spray. Yeah, Axe body spray is so strong. I remember being in like middle school. I ain't gonna put myself out there like that. But I remember being in like our like high school, and whenever somebody would spray Axe, like they would spray too much. Yeah, it was those Axe body spray commercials. And it's like that's what they it's like it's literally in the marketing. And I guess this is what Capricorn and Aquarius in this deck. So this is a Saturnian energy. Yeah, that makes sense. Because we see here, this is that same sort of warrior. Okay, the Viking is kind of different than a warrior, but we can tell that that's not an empty suit, right? This suit, like, we don't know who's in there. And we find out in the Six of Wands, it's like nobody's home. It's a golem. Are you victorious? Yes, but it's like, again, it's that Five of Swords energy. It's victory at what cost? Like, what are you sacrificing? What are you giving away to achieve this? And it's again, it's like, what good does it do for a man or a woman or person to gain the world but lose themselves? And what it's doing is, this doesn't even necessarily, I feel like it all works off of like psychology and interpersonal dynamics, because this energy doesn't have to do anything to this energy. They're not even in the same environment. But this is the person who would sell everything for crumbs. And crumbs could be millions of dollars, it could be a mansion, it can be everything you want. This is a person who would sell everything, but then hold such animosity for the one and for the ones that don't. But what that does is it causes even further division within the one of this. And it may cause hurt feelings over here. Eventually, this person might learn, depending on when this occurs, this person might learn to like, oh, well, like, maybe I should try to blend in. Maybe I shouldn't stand out so much. Maybe I should conform type of energy. But with the energy of Saturn here, it's like, no. No, no, not interested. Don't think so. No, thanks. Yeah, this is like it's all within the realm of this Hierophant energy. And again, it's like the old Hierophant, it takes advantage of the nature of man. And that's what the werewolf feels like lately. Lately, the werewolf feels like an excuse to be a monster. It's like, oh, I was bitten by the wolf, and that's why, like, I'm tearing people apart and I'm ravaging whatever. And it's like, well, what about all these werewolves who, like, aren't doing that? Like, you know, they're sane. They're not going out and doing all this stuff. Me too. And it's like, it's an energy that amplifies what was already within you. Now you just have an excuse to go out and be that way. And that's the confirmation bias that Hierophant can be. That's for all the, it's like the people who aren't that religious really, but then whenever they need to justify some kind of bias, they go to religion. And it's like, well, in the Bible it says this, in this book it says that. And it's like, but you don't even live your life according to that. So is this just something that like you buy into when it justifies whatever belief you already have? I mean, you may have been conditioned to believe this, so it is what it is. But if like that's the only time where this applies to you is when you use it to separate other or to justify some kind of mistreatment when it's supposed to be about love. It's weird, right? It's this energy. It's empty. It's That's somebody else. And a lot of times also it's like we can be these free thinkers and we can be these radical whatevers, but what we do is we take on somebody else's information. It's like you trade one hierophant for a different hierophant. And then just as much as you blindly follow the one hierophant, you blindly follow the next one. And so where is the thinking in that? Well, you made the choice and decision to buy into what someone else was saying and to allow their thoughts to become your thoughts. But it's like you already did that. Just because you go to somebody else doesn't mean it's like new or groundbreaking or revolutionary or different. It's the same thing. It's the same energy, just a different sort of appearance or thing on the outside. And if it doesn't lead you closer to love or towards acceptance or to moving forward in a space that carries energies of like coexistence, then like what good does it do? If it leads you down another path of destruction, but yeah, religion of convenience, exactly. And honestly, like I'm not trying to come for anybody's religion. This is just like how I grew up. When I grew up in the church, it was like, we weren't cussing, we weren't smoking and drinking, we weren't out partying or doing stuff like that. And so then I go to college and it's like, I meet people who claim to be Christian, but the life that they live is exactly the same as the life that someone else lives from the outside. On the inside, it can be completely different. But I've met people who are beautiful on the inside who don't subscribe or label themselves as Christian. And I've met people who aren't that beautiful on the inside who do. So, but for me, it was just like a little culture shock because it was like growing up, it's like, but like you're drinking and you're smoking and you're cussing and you're just as rowdy as everybody else is. So, where does that distinction lie? Like you put it away when you go to church on Sunday, when you go to church on Sunday or something like that? I don't know. And not to say that you can't be a Christian and do all those things, of course. Because first of all, who it's not for me to say. That's a relationship between you and your creator. For me, it was just a culture shock. I was like, what? That's crazy. What? Wow. And it was also something for me to question, I guess, and to break down. Because if I look at my beliefs today, it's like, yeah, like I don't believe you have to subscribe to all of that sort of like puritanical sort of philosophy to be valid in whatever you believe. And so it opened me up to knowing that there's more to religion than, I don't know, modesty and what's that word for not doing stuff? I don't know. But if that's how you practice and if that's how you observe your faith, then that's also fine because it's your relationship with your creator, right? Okay. So, final card. Oof. Let's try to keep this under an hour. This is so many. Ooh. So the Five of Wands Chimera is at the bottom of the deck with the Knight of Wands Hanuman under it. And there's Kali, the Empress. Kali is like sitting in the ring of fire trying to transmute that. Or maybe she's outside. I don't know if she's inside or outside, but she's doing that transmutation energy. This is divine feminine energy trying to call us out of that weird enclosure. That's very contradictory. But bottom of the deck is these two. Different skies, right? So first these cards flipped over. It's the Six of Wands with another knight. So Six of Wands Gollum. Knight of Cups Jinn. Nine of Pentacles Frankenstein. King of Cups, Orc, Three of Swords, Alien. And then on the other side is Temperance and the Two of Cups. And, okay, so the bottom of the deck being the Five of Wands and the Knight of Wands makes sense. Because it's that light and dark thing. With, again, Kali, Divine Feminine Empress energy, trying to. Oh, is it? Oh, snap, I didn't even notice. Look! So that's another energy on the unicorn. Oh, but you said that. Kali was another name for Lilith. Lilith is the one on the unicorn. She's sitting on the unicorn. Okay. Oh my gosh, and look. Under that is the echidna. But this echidna is in the garden. The echidna in Greek mythology was the mother of Cerberus, um, and some of the other like big beasts, big monsters. Echidna was the mother. And so it falls into that Lilith energy again, or what we've sort of attributed to Lilith energy. But with that Four of Pentacles, again, it's an energy of like, and then the High Priestess is under it. It's almost an energy of creating nightmares ourselves because of the power of belief and of the power of a further amplified collective belief. But it's also an energy of like, even if you were to try to find this, even if you were to try to resolve this, if you go looking in the dark for it, you're not going to find it there. And so it's condemning and simultaneously misleading. It almost creates this impossible sort of maze where even if we try to get it right, we still get it wrong because we're not looking in the right place. She's not there. But the divine can tell you where she is. She can reveal herself where she is. That's the power of connection that we all have when we take connection beyond the Hierophant. The Hierophant isn't supposed to substitute for the actual divine itself, but we elevate Hierophant to that position because we sort of see ourselves as less than or incapable of receiving. And so we go to the one who we believe can. And again, Hierophant sort of leads us there. It's not that Hierophant isn't important. What the Hierophant did was in a time where a lot of people were like uneducated because they couldn't be in more like medieval European sort of settings. The Hierophant brought information to people who wouldn't be able to read it themselves. And it gave them something when they were what, like serfs? I don't know what they believed in or subscribed to before, but it's almost like it gave them a line to the divine. But then, as more and more and more people sort of depended and relied on it and worshipped it, that's when it started to like really accumulate power and do stuff. Anyway, that's this sort of like light and dark. I feel like this is internal. I feel like both of these are internal, honestly. Either the Five of Wands or the Knight of Wands. And it's like either it's a stagnant fire or like a flowing fire. And the flowing fire has like water, it has the energy of water. So on the Six of Wands, like this and all of this, it either happens at night or it happens in a very sort of cloudy, if I can hold these up, energy. The Jinn is very much be careful what you wish for because it takes more than it gives. And then we have Frankenstein, which it's this like amalgamated monster Not Frankenstein in the story, I think, was actually a decent person until he was like subjected to trauma and mistreatment by people. He became the monster that everyone viewed him as. And then we have this King of Cups orc who is a very like what's interesting though is we see the skull motif in the orc and in the Kali imagery, but it's like one of these is divine. The other one is something. I'm not gonna say what it is or isn't. One of these is divine, the other is something else. And divinity is something that goes deeper than actions. But with this Three of Swords alien, after all this is the pain of alienation and isolation from our true selves that we feel. Again, because it's like in this energy, it's like if you ask to be stronger or something, and then you get Frankensteined into this orc energy. Is this alien crying? Is this a tear? Is that a tear? It might be. It might not be. I feel like that's like us looking for something outside of ourselves, waiting for a place where we belong, waiting for permission to stop pretending, or waiting for the time when we can pursue things that fulfill us and still feel or attain or achieve some kind of stability. Right. Now, temperance is also happening at night. It's also happening in this clouded sort of area. And it's like it's trying to pull us, these energies are trying to pull us out of all of this not great weirdness into something more truly bountiful and abundant and peaceful and harmonious. But there is conditioning from this energy that we have to leave behind. And also, we need to find ourselves. Because if we move into this energy as a golem, we still won't feel that fulfillment. Not on a truly satisfying level. Right? It's like first it turns your heart cold, and then it creates this sort of this stone monster around it. The heart of humanity has grown so incredibly cold. And I don't want to say like that's what spiritual warfare is, but that has been happening for a long time. It's like now we're fighting to get it back. Now we're fighting to make it beat again. Now it's like we're fighting for people to care. So that's what I got. That was the release for this week. I don't know what I'm going to title this, but I never know what I'm going to title any of these. So thanks, Eve. It's been fun. I will catch y'all when I catch y'all. I am going to go. It's starting to get warm. The water is warm. Oh, okay. There's a cool spot. I want like one card, please. Please. I'm just gonna pick the card because. Oh no! Come on! Ooh, ooh. Okay. Bottom of the deck is the Hanged Man Imp and the Two of Swords Ghost. This is the past. This is the position of the past, sort of poking and prodding us. No problem. So we start with the Knight of Wands, which is that fluid fire, which is the energy of water, right? And then we have the Ten of Cups, Leviathan. Now, the Ten of Cups, Leviathan, it is both that happiness and joy and fulfillment that the Ten of Cups brings, but it is also that which dwells and rests at the entry point of divinity within us, because we're all created and made in the image of God, right? We have a spark of the divine within us. This is sort of like that spark sort of realized, or that's the power that it holds. And then we have this Ace of Pentacles, Mandragora, which is the living plant. All plants are living, but it's the one that can like walk around and like move and stuff, right? But then we have this Golem and the Two of Cups and the Empress. This is an energy of deconditioning and reconditioning. And that's why the imp is here with the ghosts. Like, this is where it sort of pokes and prods us. It's in this golem state as we're coming to unite with ourselves. But to unite with ourselves in a way that makes us move through the world different. Like, this isn't a stationary or stagnant unity. Again, it's that fluid fire. It's like water, it moves. Here's fluid earth. It's like water, it moves. Everything is moving, but it's moving on its own accord, of its own volition, informed and motivated by the divine, instead of whoever this is outside of the circle. And it's like, even when we come into a space of spirituality, I feel like a lot of times we can try to sort of force the divine into this position. It's like we try to make ourselves golems for the divine. And I guess it's better than being a golem for like somebody weird. Like, if you're a good golem, or a golem for someone who's trying to impact positive change or affect positive change rather than like negative change or stagnation, then that's better. But it's like we also have to recognize that in a relationship with the divine, we are also considered, we are also honored, right? That's why we have free will and free choice. Or that's one of the reasons. Like, we still, like, we're human in this plane. We still get to experience things that we'll enjoy. And enjoyment and the fulfillment of that is still important. And that's the energy that Turiel, or return Turiel, is sort of holding. Like, I know in the card it says that it seemed like the angel was as much sustained by praise as it was food and water. But it's more, hey Amanda, how you doing today? But it's more, it's like the divine wants us to be happy, and it wants to make you happy, and not, I don't know, like, you don't have to not desire something. You could if you wanted to, but it feels like it's not to be someone else's golem. So now, oh, all these cards. Ooh. Okay, well, I love these two. The Two of Pentacles elf with the Queen of Pentacles dryad. This is a very earthy, gorgeous, beautiful energy. It's almost like the divine, and more specifically divine feminine energy, is starting to wake up. Not wake up. Well, it's starting to wake up, because now we're in a position where it's like, again, how we sort of view these things gives it what it needs to anchor itself in this plane, and to make itself more present and aware, because choice is honored, right? But it's becoming more and more of the collective choice, which is what Turiel was about on the left leg yesterday. I don't know if I communicated it or not, but it's like everything is starting to shift and change away from old Hierophant, more towards a cleaner Hierophant, a greener Hierophant, a more divine sort of energy. And so now the divine is going to be coming into a space where it can make itself more present. But in the divine making itself more present, it's probably simultaneously going to make that which obstructs the light even darker. Because it's like, if the light gets brighter, then sometimes the shadow gets more defined. Or it's like you can just, when you experience the divine more, you know where you're not experiencing the divine, and you're like, yeah, the divine isn't in this. Yeah, it's not in this. Like, I know what it is now. I can feel it. It resonates within me now because everything's been wiped off enough, and I don't feel it in this. And then we have the succubus lovers. I don't know what this is. Bottom of the deck is the Quetzalcoatl Ace of Swords. This feels like, because again, it's almost that Lilith energy. This feels like us coming into a space of receiving the divine, collaborating with the divine in a way that old twisted Hierophant energy didn't want us to. This feels like a layer of misconception and misperception that was intentionally sort of put in place. It reminds me of this one episode of Black Mirror where they have like these hologram thingies, like they have chips or earpieces or whatever that like they can lay out maps and communicate. And there are these things, I think they called them roaches. I don't know what they called them. And they were like going out and exterminating the roaches. And then one of the roaches produces this weird green light, green being the color of the heart chakra, I guess, today. I mean, the green is always the heart chakra, but you know. And something about that green light interferes with someone's device. Now he's able to see that what were these roaches that they were going out and exterminating? They were actually people. They were people that were, either they carried something or they were genetically susceptible to it. And to make the world more perfect, they decided to exterminate those people. And so what they did was they recruited all these soldiers who couldn't see otherwise because there was that neurovisual interference from the device, what they were actually doing. And it's that energy. It's like we've been convinced to see this in a way that it's not, so that we're repulsed by it or so that we don't seek it out. Or again, that's us sort of going to the wrong places to try to find these things because that's where we've been told where they are. And media and the versions of the stories that we come across a lot of times, and they're like, Lilith is always this queen of darkness. Yeah, I was like, oh my gosh. And then the end of the episode comes and he has to make a choice. And I don't want to spoil it if anyone chooses to watch it. But at the end of the episode, he makes a choice. And as many times as we've seen the Six of Wands golem, the golem, but now, thanks to the shifting out, the phasing out of the age of Pisces and the phasing into the age of Aquarius, through this increased awakening energy, this global rising of consciousness, this questioning some things that we didn't necessarily question before, us wanting more than old Hierophant can give us. Old Hierophant wasn't really designed to give us the kind of peace that we're now asking for. Old Hierophant, I mean, in the books, if you look at it on paper, it was, but if you look at it in reality, it wasn't giving us that. But now it's like we're going to start to be able to see the truth. And the heart chakra, that green light, that's the solution. That's the answer. That's why all of this is happening in the forest. It's like it's so green. Oh, look at this. This is also happening in the forest. And then there's these like big green curtains on the side. It feels like this energy is the dryad, honestly. And when you, it's a lot of love. So you could feel it for like a split second and just be absolutely moved to tears. And it's like, okay. Anyway, um, that's what that feels like. And again, it feels like old Hierophant. I think it was better than we thought it was. Or I feel like we were more conditioned than we thought we were. Yay! One card! Whoop, now we're done. The Magician, the Warlock. Oh, look, it's an eclipse. I also feel that that dagger that the Magician is holding is the sword that the King of Swords, the Viking, was standing on. But it's smaller in the hand of the Magician. But that's like a crescent moon eclipse. That's not even a full moon eclipse. What I'm interested in, though, is this fire coming out of the egg in the space of the eclipse. Or is that a candle? An egg shaped candle? Yeah, see, I was watching a video somewhere, and they mentioned that sometimes when you see the moon, you'll see like all these rays behind it, and it's like, oh, that's the sun, so it's an eclipse. It's like, yeah, because the moon doesn't have rays like that. And that was the one card I can finally end this video. Thank you. Bottom of the deck is 13 frequency. It's death, and it's time. Look at that. The sands have run out. And it reminds me of that clock that the high priestess had on her wall. And look, there's another tool. The sword and the scythe are both blades, but they are designed for different things. And the scythe is extremely effective at what it does. You just, and half the field is gone. With the sword, you got to hack, like with the machete, it's like hacking through the jungle. Where if you could just take a scythe and just clear the path all at once. And look, there are people holding up, well, they're candles, but they looked like people for a second holding these lights. Yeah, they're people. That's what they came as. Maybe they're individual magicians. Oh, look! Because I was like, what's coming out of that? Creating the space for this transition, for this transformation, for this change. Like literally anchoring light. This was at the bottom. I love that. What you do? What? I might have to go look. I know there was one time. It was because before I got my eyes operated on, sometimes I would see like multiples of something. And it was like there was the moon, and then there was like this little shadow of a moon off to the side. I was like, what? And I was like, oh, it's my eyes. So, yeah. And that is kind of, that's what the Asbiel thing came out as yesterday. It was the space of like being the light, anchoring the light. After we hold so much, then it's like, again, with that 10 of cups energy, there's like a leviathan within us, but it's activated by a certain, by the fulfillment of certain things. And there have been so many like secret societies and brotherhoods and things of that nature that would teach you these are the 8 gates, and you get initiated into some kind of Gnosticism or Hermeticism to do whatever. And it's not to say that that's not effective, but it's also to say that it's a lot more simple, I guess. But I guess it's not necessarily easy to be who we could be in a life where we're subjected to all of life. the whole range and gamut of experiences and emotions. But it's also an energy that, like, it feels like the world is primed for it in a certain way, because one of the global collective outcries right now is for change, and it's for peace. There are so many people on both sides of certain situations that no longer want, like, fighting and war and the inheritance of baggage from ancestors. It reminds me again at the end of the reading, it was like the divine is working alongside humanity to converge on this eighth anger that's just been here, carried from generation to generation, because we kind of sort of keep it alive in what we do, or we don't address. Look at, sorry, my hair is getting a little longer. We don't really do anything to alleviate it or to remove it. Nothing substantial. And maybe we breadcrumb here and there. We give a little bit, we take our day, our week, our month of caring, and then it's back to business for us. It's back to our lives. It's back to focusing on ourselves. But, like, the selfishness of humanity is also one of those psychological things that the Hierophant sort of uses to its advantage. Fear, selfishness, anger, the sense of personally feeling wronged in a situation, to the point where we go out and wrong others, that then leads to more people feeling wronged. And so they go out and wrong somebody else. And then the person that gets wronged by them feels wronged, and they go out and wrong somebody else. And at some point, it's like, okay, well, when are we going to, like, release that, break that, go inward, focus on ourselves, and allow the divine to bring us justice, rather than us continuing to to perpetrate and perpetuate the not great things that happen to us because they happen to somebody else. And it's true that hurt people, or it's become true that hurt people. But there are hurt people who don't hurt people. I guess that's the power of choice. So it's like the world is, not only is the world needing it now more than ever, the world is also, in some spaces, demanding it. And that's what's creating the foundation for change, because there are more and more and more people who are exhausted, who are choosing, you know what, it doesn't matter who started it, it doesn't matter where it's coming from, let's end it. And if we end it, we're all happy, right? You can be happy, and I can be happy, and everybody else can be happy, rather than trying to find that happiness and taking what we already lost, or something like that. Yeah. And it's unfortunate because, again, it feels like, and it could be more than just the Hierophants, but it could also be just the energy of energy, that there was some, I don't know, with the way that life works, it's like you think that you might hit a detour, but then it turns out that you're exactly where you're supposed to be, or you know something now, or you're better now for some reason and in some way, or now that you know what you know, you won't do something weird when it happens, because it's like, it's like before we knew that cigarettes came with all of the uh word with all of the things that it comes with potentially, right? Before we knew that, when people were just smoking cigarettes because of how it made them feel and they didn't know what it was also doing to their bodies, it's like they didn't have all of the information to make that choice. And it's like, well, if we go back and if we still sell cigarettes and we're like, hey, it may cause this, this, and that, not that you don't still have the right to smoke them, you do, but now you know, right? And it's like, oh, okay. Yeah. And I know, I feel like a lot of times I come on here and I feel like actually maybe not. When I notice a change and when I notice something changing and happening, I think I'll talk about it. But it's for the continuation of that change, right? It reminds me of that completion or near completion card. Like, this is step one. And it's not that we can't celebrate, but it's also for us to not stop doing what we're doing that's working. Because sometimes it's like we experience a little bit of change and then like we celebrate, and then that celebration turns from a day to a week to a month to a year to us kind of sort of thinking, oh, well, I've done enough that I should be able to continue doing whatever. But momentum eventually sort of peters out. I don't know. Don't listen to me. I don't know. We all have our different journeys, right? Do whatever the divine is telling you to do, and I'll do what the divine is telling me to do. And since we're all listening, we'll get there. But also, again, there was an energy of, it's like we're not, I don't know if it's necessarily intended for us to be divine golems like we were less than divine golems. I think it is still for us to be sort of present in what we do. And that's where the beauty and the truth, that's where the fullness of us comes in. And it's just like how we have so many different gods and goddesses, and how the divine will choose to take different forms for different reasons, for different purposes, to specialize in something. It's very much so that energy of like just how like Kali and Lilith can be sort of the same energy. It reminds me again of that Heroes of Olympus, like when they went to go talk to the gods, and depending on the name that they addressed the god with, it would shift itself into the energies that represented that. Right. So if you call Aries Mars, then you get this glorified, dignified Roman energy of Mars, rather than the tempestuous sort of Greek Aries, right? And so I think that's why it's also important that with that Lilith frequency, that we go looking for it in the right place, and that we address it in the right way. Because there are some incarnations or some variations of that energy incarnate that could aid us more in what it is that we're trying to do, or that get closer to the truth of what it actually is. And it's no different than the narratives we tell ourselves. If we tell ourselves that we're no good and that, we're dumb or stupid or whatever, maybe we perform worse. We don't perform as well. But when we change the narrative, it's like we perform better, and all of a sudden we're capable of things that we weren't in the past. That's the power of narrative, and it's huge. It's the power of storytelling, and it's the power of the media, because the media is a bunch of narratives, and it's so immense, and it has such an ability to shape belief and opinion. It's crazy. There, you can form an entire opinion about something that you will be very strong in, and that you will vehemently, I think that's how you pronounce that word, defend, and have literally no real life exposure to it. It's just a collection. It's the opinion that you form and stand on based upon a collection of observations that someone else gave you. Someone else reported on it in their angle, from their perspective, from their viewpoint, and you form yours based on that, to the point where sometimes you hold on to that so strongly that when you do encounter it in real life for the first time, it's like you don't even see it for what it actually is. You see it for what you've been conditioned to see it as. And so who's to say that some of these energies haven't been here? We just thought it was something else. I don't know. I don't know. Take it as it resonates. It's a time for expansion in a lot of ways. South Node is in Sagittarius right now. It's definitely a time for expansion in the realm of higher thinking, belief, and philosophy. Maybe it's time for some truths to come out. And like, these truths have the ability to like, probably, because again, like, South Node is about to move into Scorpio. North Node is about to move into Taurus. And like, I think it's in January. That's it's a huge potential for change. And we already see how things are sort of shifting and moving, regardless of who tries to hide the story or who tries to stop it from getting out. The world is connected enough now that it finds a way anyway. Jupiter. What'd you say? Honestly, I don't know what. I feel like if I really think about it, Jupiter is one of those planets where I'm just like, what do you do? Like honestly, I don't have. It's probably interesting Jupiter expansion. Yeah, I know Jupiter's expansion, but that's like the limit of what I know about Jupiter. Like expanding what? Like how? And it's like right now because the south node is in Sagittarius and Jupiter rules Sagittarius, then Jupiter is holding, at least in part, the energy of that south node. And Mercury is holding the energy of the north node. And sometimes with the shadow of Jupiter leaning into maybe more Sagittarius, it's like we try to collect more and more information in a book or on the internet, but we don't like go to the source. And again, that's that whole media thing, right? Instead of us going to an environment and forming our own opinion, we seek out someone else's opinion to make it our own. We seek out someone else's perspective and we make it our own, which again leads us to that Six of Wands golem energy, where we are the embodiment of someone else's philosophies, someone else's beliefs, someone else's thoughts. But we live out our lives that way. We'll pick up the sword. We'll live by the sword and then die by the sword for something that was never us. But Gemini is like boots on the ground, like, let me get in there and like live amongst the people and form my own opinions. And it's like, oh, like these people weren't as bad as we were conditioned to believe they were. And what we're not reporting on is the bad that we're actually doing in this place. So the real villain here is me or us or the very thing that I was trying to sort of get away from. But again, like I'm more of a like Saturn. I don't even know what Saturn does now that I talk about it. But Jupiter for me right now, it's holding an interesting energy because it's like expanding what type of like, because if Jupiter isn't in a great place, it feels like old Jupiter could be sort of indiscriminate. And a lot of times we view expansion as good. But it's like, well, what if it's expanding on something that's not that great? Because it's just an energy of expansion. It's like a gas giant, right? You like it doesn't discern like what flame sort of comes. It feels like Saturn would be a little bit more discerning. But it's like if Jupiter is properly aligned, then yeah, like that's gorgeous. If Jupiter isn't that well aligned, it can create nightmares on Earth and it can make them real. So I don't know. That's another reason why I'm in an interesting place with astrology. You've been seeing it as a consciousness thing. Oh, expanding consciousness. I can see that. But also, like, I haven't really been on my journey long enough to experience, like, I've been on my journey for like 2.5 years, more intentionally now. Um, and so I feel like I'm still like a little too new to be like, oh, this is this because of what I've personally experienced. Like, I know what other people say about some of the planets, but because of what was transpiring almost a year ago, I sort of fell out with astrology in a way that I heard a lot of people talking about astrology. And it was Mars and Pisces that triggered it for me because everyone was like, oh, Mars and Pisces, like Pisces is about illusions, it's about fantasies, nothing is real. And so if Mars is in Pisces, like nothing that you do is like really going to matter. It's all going to be an illusion. It's all going to be a fantasy. You're going to be misguided. So while Mars is in Pisces, like don't do anything. Just wait for Mars to go into Aries. And then one day I'm using the Spirit Keeper's Tarot where they have the associations on them. And it's like Mars and Pisces is the energy of 10 of Cups. Like Mars and Pisces is the energy that Pisces needs to actually do something to make it a reality. But everyone I'm hearing right now is telling me that like not to do anything. And then Mars went into Aries, and then it was this story of, well, oh, Mars in Aries is like super aggressive, so don't do much because everyone's going to be angry, and then it's going to retrograde, so it's going to be in Aries all year. And again, like that was the point where I was like, I experience what I need to experience in the way to highlight and illuminate something to me. So it's not necessarily for me, even though I may not do a great job at it sometimes, it's not necessarily for me to hold this opinion of something in totality. It's for me to know that, like, okay, so now I'm going to be coming into a space where I need to do this. And because I need to do this, I'm seeing this like that. And then that's basically what led to me using my voice. And that was one of the things that led to me using my voice. Yeah. That's what I don't know. But for me, I still look at the planet sometimes. Like that one day I was randomly emotional. I was like, is there like is the moon in like Pisces or something? Is the moon in Cancer? Why am I feeling like I'm crying? And the moon was in like Aquarius, not really doing anything for me. There was nothing transiting that was happening. And I was like, oh, I'm feeling like this right now because I'm triggered by this in this way that I haven't been triggered in a long time because I haven't allowed myself to get this close to anybody really. And now one of my precious friends is moving away. For me, like it's not astrological right now, it's life. I'm like, oh, okay. And sometimes it lines up. I don't know. But yeah, I get what you're saying. And it is also for me to be open. I feel like I feel like I'm more open than I kind of let on sometimes. And I picked the duck yesterday. What the duck? I picked the second duck. And the energy of that bad mirror, I feel like sometimes I don't, in this space, accurately reflect who I am. I feel like I can probably seem to be like a little more closed off or closed minded than I actually am. I could probably seem to be a little harsher or more critical or judgmental than I am in real life. And that's something for me to just like keep in mind and to work on. Like, I'm not going to tell anybody what they can or can't believe. When it lines up, you treat it as a nice synchronicity. I guess I do too. I don't know. Like since last year, maybe I need to like get back into astrology or allow it to be like maybe I just need to like build my own sort of hey, how are you doing? Oh my gosh, what a surprise. Welcome. Um maybe it's for me to like rediscover and not to be so just like ew, I don't want anything to do with this. I don't know. Because I do believe that it can hold a lot of stuff. But there's another part of me that believes that astrology has been one of those things where it's like someone else kind of sort of sets the meaning. Someone else kind of sort of sets the tone. And so when we see it, we automatically sort of like buy into like, oh, this is what's going to happen. And because that's what we believe, we put more energy into that, which makes it more likely to happen. And it's more that like hierophant playing with collective belief type of thing. And I'm like, that's weird. I don't know. I'm doing well today. How are you? I'm like, it's a weekly release today. So weekly release is something that I did probably last year, and I wanted to get back into it. I it wasn't as hot today. I don't think I'm gonna have to put any chili peppers on the video, which I'm excited about because that's what I want to do. Yeah, I just saw you uploaded a video about the Schumann spike. And I was like, "Oh, snap, I'm going to check this out." And then I like ate some cereal or something and I forgot. So, Oh yeah. See, I don't know if it's because like it got cooler for a few days, but I'm like, I'm not appreciating the heat. Okay, well, I hope you find something that you like. I mean, I guess if you're here, then there's something here. But yeah, I didn't watch the whole video, but I watched your human design video yesterday long enough to go and get a chart on the internet, and I was like, oh, I'm like full disclosure, I love personality tests. I'm always like, tell me who I am. Like, oh, same. Like, I don't like heat at all. I'd much prefer to freeze. Um, so I am a manifester. Where I took a picture of it. And then I saw it was the I'm a 5'1", like heretic something. I was like, heretic, what? And I was like, okay, yeah, I guess I see it. Let's see. Oh, here it is. All right. So I'm a manifester, and my inner authority, it's emotional, solar plexus. I'm a 5'1" profile. Left angle cross of migration is the incarnation cross. And when it said the not self theme is anger, I was like, yeah, I just did that. What? Really? Oh, look at that. Yeah, I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And then it was like, oh, you're a manifester. So, like, you're here to lead. And I was like, honestly, like, the word lead used to like trigger me. I used to be like, especially back before I like used my voice and I came into the power of my authority or just having some kind of voice. I would always see it and be like, oh, like, no, like, I'd rather be in the background. I'd rather be like the silent observer type. Just like, yeah, I can't, like, oh, well, we're really doing that? Okay. Like, weird, but okay. That's not going to work, but okay. And when I looked at, you're a right cross generator, 3-1 sacral. Ooh. Yeah. And that's like because when I read the part about the strategy and like the to inform part, it's like you kind of sort of just it was like you just do stuff regardless of like who's with you or not. I'm like, yeah, true. I thought it was that Taurus moon and rising. So my stubborn Taurus moon is in my first house. And I'm like, I don't care if you want to do this or not. I'm gonna go do what I want to do. You can do what you want to do. And like I remember there was one time I was with one of my friends and I was like, hey, you want to go eat dinner? He was like, yeah. And I was like, okay, well, we're gonna go to the one that we have to walk to. And he was like, all right, well, let's see if anyone else wants to go to dinner. And we had someone else who wanted to join us, or we met him, and my friend didn't really want to walk. Um, but he was like, oh, like now that there's three of us, let's see where we want to go eat. And they wanted to go eat at the place that was right next door. And I was like, I looked at that menu and I don't want to eat that. And then he was like, "Well, like it's two against one right now." I was like, "Okay, well, I'll go eat by myself because I'm not eating that." But I think whenever it comes to something that impacts people, though, shout out to my Pisces sun, I guess. See, I say that I'm not into astrology, and then I'm always throwing out astrology. So I'm a hypocrite. I'm a paradox. Life is paradoxical in nature. It's not to try to remove the paradox, it's to flow with the paradox. Yeah. So I'm like, if I do something that impacts somebody, I'm gonna care. Like, I'm not just gonna do stuff that impacts somebody and like not talk to them, not inform them. And like, I wonder if my other friend, I'm 228, the 28th of Feb. If you're born on the 28th, I was like, oh my gosh, are we the same person? um, but it's like he'll just do stuff. I'm like, what? Where do people do that? When's your birthday? Oh, you're 3-6. Okay. Well, close. That's less than a week when it's not the leap year, especially. But yeah, I can't believe we have so many in common. What's your Myers Briggs? I'm like an INFJ. I'm like definitely I and FJ. On some of them, it's like a really close percentage where I could almost go the other way, but I'm for sure an INFJ. Um, but yeah. Hey, okay. Have you ever done True Colors? What else do we have in common? um, so yeah, when I said that, when I saw that, I was like, okay. And then also in my numbers, in my life path numbers, I'm a seven. I'm a life path seven, which probably isn't surprising. Like a lot of things. And but when it was like the different numbers at 28, my number was one, and one is like the leader. And I was like, oh, snap! You're a life path 11. Oh well, that's interesting. How does that work? I'm curious. But for like on 28, like my number is one. And at first I saw it and I was like, oh, like one, I don't want to be a leader. I don't want to stand out. And then last year happened. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I am this. And I don't mind standing out. And actually, if it's going to lead to some kind of change, I don't mind being more outspoken or not outspoken. I don't mind speaking and being seen. And it's one of those things that you gotta. Oh, snap. I was gonna ask you if you were born in a 9 year. Because I saw the three and the six. I was like, but I didn't. I should have. And you're a life path 11. Okay. That makes sense. You're a seven too? I'm not surprised. Um, but yeah, I guess, and that's maybe it's the Taurus. I don't know what it is. It's something in me that doesn't like when somebody. I'm not rebellious. No problem, Amanda. Oh snap! Is everything okay? I hope everything's all right. I think it's already kind of it's getting later over there too. Um, so I don't know if it's like the me that's trying to be rebellious, but whenever something happens, the way that someone said it'll happen, and if I do something that someone expected me to do or projected me to do, and it was something that I originally didn't want to do, when I end up doing it, I feel some I feel some type of way. And I'm like, so the fact that like I'm in a position now of not at least not being bothered by the leader sort of word or responsibility less. It's like, oh, so something somewhere was kind of right, even though I didn't like originally want to be this. But then I'm like, well, how did you know? Oh my gosh, it's real. So, but yeah, I did the human design. I just went to a website and it was like these are the 5 things to get you started with human design. I was like, okay, that's cool. Yeah, I used I used to be more like that. I can kind of sort of still be like that sometimes. Yeah, and I'm a maybe it's the Taurus rising that makes me just stubborn, and the Taurus moon. Like, so I have my Venus is in Aries, but my Chiron is in Leo, North Node is in Sagittarius. So I have a grand fire trine in my chart, but two of those energies were kind of sort of locked away, but behind like the North Node and Chiron. Oh, I'm a cat midheaven. Wait, what's your rising? What's your rising? What? Yeah, so I've done that. Like I've intentionally made myself less happy just to not do what someone expected me to do. And it's like, yeah, well, I'm not gonna do it. And then I'm like, man, I wish I would have did it. Honestly, I wouldn't even feel that. I was like, see, this me not doing that is worth it. Because what's more important, me giving in to somebody else or whatever I would have gotten? And now I'm just like, I'm sure there was some version of Patrick that was just like rolling his eyes. Oh, Moon and Sag, Libra rising, and Leo in the first house. Wow, that's interesting. It's Ah! All right, that was funny. Yeah, but now I'm like, okay, and that's been one of the lessons that I've been learning a lot more so within the past, like this year. Um, Aries moon and Sag rising, you tend to simmer. Woo. Yeah, see the Taurus in me though, like the Taurus moon and rising, it's really good at sort of mitigating like my crazy Mars and Cancer. And so because it sets this threshold, right? And if I don't get more upset than this, then I'll be fine. So a lot of times it may get close, but it doesn't break. But when it breaks, it's just like there. And I'm like, yeah. But then I'll be like, I'm a good person. Like I'm nice. So the fact that you put me in this position means that you deserve everything that's about to happen to you. Because I'm not like this to people who don't deserve this. I'm a good person. And then it's just like, okay. And then eventually I'll calm down, maybe, and I get over it. Wow. Yeah. See, because they're two fish in this situation, and I think a lot of times like I can be really like nice and accommodating, and there are some people who like misinterpret that for someone who could be taken advantage of, and then they find out that I'm not someone who could be taken advantage of, and so they get really shocked and surprised when they see that side of me, and I'm like, well, like, so you expected me to just like keep taking it? You expected me to keep getting mistreated? That's weird. No, see, that's not what this is. And maybe I'm going to be your karmic lesson as to why you shouldn't treat people like that. Let me stop. I'm just playing, kind of. Yeah. Yeah. See, but you're like a Libra. I feel like Libra a lot of times, like you try to give three chances, then you're out of the circle of trust. Yeah. See, it's like I don't know. I feel like I used to be. Well, I met somebody. He was a Libra, and this is the thing about Libra, or this is the thing about him. It's like if we get in an argument, there will be times where he intentionally upsets me. And like the last time, I was like, you know what? Just let it go, let it go, let it go, let it go. And that happened last year when I stayed there. So I'm like, okay, you're gonna keep poking me until I respond. So then I give him a response. But as soon as he gets that response, he wants to like flip back into that like, oh, but like, whatever. He's like, oh, you always get defensive last time. But he doesn't like to sit in that energy. Like he likes to poke and prod people. He likes to get a reaction sometimes, but he doesn't like to sit in it because then it'll start to do something to him. And I think he's also a Libra moon. And so, depending on how I'm feeling, like the last time, I was like, I can be extra petty right now because you pushed me to this point and you want me to immediately get over it. But no, If you want to sit in this, we'll sit in this. We'll stew. I can do that. But last time I was like, you know what? Like, let it go. It's not that important. And so that was an opportunity for me to just like, okay. And then he was like, oh, I'm stressed and I'm going through this. I'm like, but why does you being stressed mean that we have to like argue? Like, why can't you go for a run if you need stress relief or play a game or something? And then the time after that, he was like, oh, like, or he admitted to trying to get a reaction out of me. And I'm like, why do you do this? But yeah, you can't expel that kind of energy on people for anger's sake. It's like most of the times, honestly, though, I'll just walk away. I'm like, you know what? And especially like when I was a lot younger, then I would do that. But more often than not now, I just leave. I'm like, this isn't worth my time or energy. And if this is what this dynamic is going to be, I'm not interested because I don't want to be like angry or upset, especially with people that I'm supposed to like call friend or care about. It's like, for me, that's weird. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not into this. I'm just going to go. And am I going to mourn the friendship that we had? Yes. Am I going to cry over it? No. Maybe. But I'll be fine. I'll get over it. I've lived enough life making myself intentionally like miserable that I can deal with the unfortunate reality that sometimes things don't last. Um, so, but yeah. All right, I'm gonna get my feet out of the tub now. It was so great to see you all. Thank you for making yourself known. I'll catch y'all when I catch y'all. I hope y'all have a good whatever whenever you see this. I hope you're acting in alignment to make all that you wish to experience your reality. I hope that when you go outside, you can appreciate it for what it is and that you can allow it to show you what it can be for you rather than everything you've heard about outside, right? It's very much like what was her name? It wasn't Gretel. It's not Gretchen. The lady from Tangled who wanted to keep Rapunzel in the tower, and she's like, "Yeah, there's princes out there, but there's bad stuff out there too. You only see the stars. You don't see all the danger that's out there." And it's like, is there danger out there? Yes, but is it all dangerous? No. Like, get out the tower. Get out of the tower. It's coming down. You got 5 minutes to evacuate the tower, and then we will proceed with the demolition. And it's like, no, because you're not going to blow the tower up when I'm in here, and then you end up in the rubble. It's like, yeah, they really did it. They really took down the tower with you in it. So, when the divine says get out the tower, get out the tower. It's probably for good reason. And no problem. Bye.